Hey, how you doing? I'm the King's Kid, and I've had something interesting I saw on TV a couple times, and it kind of prompted this video. It's called Conspiracy Theory versus the News and the CCP. CCP being the Chinese Communist Party. I thought it was, but based on what I saw in the news, it was kind of interesting, so it kind of gave me a interesting thought. But I found it interesting that some news sources and the Chinese Communist Party, or at least some type of Chinese official, they've been saying in the news basically to disregard conspiracy theorists. I thought it was pretty interesting because um, it also been saying a lot of things about basically how the community at large, or people in general, should just trust the scientific community. And to me, theories are just basically unproven possibilities that may have some factual evidence, or a lot of factual evidence, but cannot be necessarily proven. So, for example, for every action is a equal and opposite reaction, which is a sign of a law. But a theory, like let's just say evolution or Big Bang, is something that pretty much have a really good idea about, but you don't have necessarily physical evidence to prove that it's true. I'm not saying it is not true, but you know. All right. I was looking up the definition of a theory, and I kind of got sidetracked with the first definition I found on a particular website. So it reminded me of a saying, or at least a thought process. It goes like, "He who wins the war writes history." And I thought that was especially fitting when I found a website that showed the definitions of a hypothesis, a theory, and what a law is. And it was also referenced by a college. I never heard of the college, but I thought it was kind of interesting. With the definitions it gave, and I'll give you the definitions from an actual dictionary later, but it says a hypothesis is a limited explanation of a phenomenon. Okay. It also says that a scientific theory is an in-depth explanation of an observed phenomenon. All right. And then it has a law. A law is a statement about an observed phenomenon or a unifying concept, which, interesting. But to me, it was kind of off from what I originally heard as a kid going through science class, which is the reason why it kind of threw me off when I saw this information on a website. And then even further, when I looked at a dictionary, online dictionary, and found that the dictionary explained it more in a way I've understood it myself. Also, I saw a story about the CCP, which I hope isn't true. It kind of reminded me of the movie of the Book of Eli. In the movie of the Book of Eli, I don't know if it was just the nation or the country or the powers that be, they decided to get rid of all the Bibles. But they missed one. That was the premise of the movie. There's a whole lot of stuff in that, just thinking about that information. But I won't go into that on this particular video, maybe a different one. But as far as the CCP, I saw a story about the CCP trying to rewrite the Bible. Now, I don't know if it's true. I've only seen it. I've seen it in maybe like one or two places, but I can't confirm this is something that actually the CCP would want to do. But considering some other stories I've seen about reconditioning camps, especially for Muslims and stuff like that going into China, it kind of makes me think that there's a possibility that it'd be true, which is the reason why I'm bringing it up in this particular video. Let's see. But basically they're trying to rewrite the Bible to kind of better reflect the views of the Chinese Communist Party, which isn't cool, because if you have good views, you have a strong message yourself, you really shouldn't have to do that. And not to mention, if you know anything about Christianity, we pretty much have to follow the law as long as it don't go against God. And in most situations, I believe that's true. Not in all, but in most. I heard also another situation which kind of prompted this video. And it says, and a scientist, I think it was a doctor that boasted about science. And what he said is, he said that you don't need faith, you don't need religion when you're dealing with science. Some to that, not necessarily exactly that, but basically it was saying that, hey, we got this whole coronavirus thing under control, and you don't need to pray about it, you don't need God, you don't really need religion, which is kind of a weird statement to say if you're talking about helping people with the coronavirus. Why do you have to make that statement? But I did want to say that religious people, including myself, we believe in science, okay? We believe in the power of science, and that it's a tool. Myself, I believe God actually loves science. You know, there's a verse in the Bible that says that it's to the glory of God to conceal a matter, but it's to the glory of man to search it out. To me, that's science, period, in a bubble, and that's in the Bible. But when you talk about it as an opposing force to religion, we'll say, I don't believe religion is necessarily a relationship with God, because I think there's a difference. But that's another story. Or that we believe in science, we just don't trust you per se. Trust in you. Because just like when people say that man wrote the Bible, okay, that's a fair statement. But you realize that science was written entirely by man. Period. So why would we trust you more than we trust God? Okay? In fact, religions have done much more to serve the world, in my opinion, over the centuries than science. But I know what you're thinking. Religion has killed more people than science. My question is, really? If you look at World War I, World War II, you look at any other war, you look at the nuclear weapons, you look at global warming, that may be an issue, how much that might affect the world. If you look at chemical weapons, if you look at nuclear power plants meltdowns that'll release radiation and basically made areas unlivable. Can you really say that? But I know what you're thinking now. Well, science has done a lot to help humanity. Totally agree. But science is the same blood on their hands as religion. Science has killed people, and religion has killed people. And probably for the same reason why I'm making this video. Because you always have somebody who wants to be in control. The biggest difference between God and scientists, is God can use scientists to perform miracles. That includes doctors and, other technicians, engineers that actually create things that help us out. But the unbelieving scientists can't use God to do anything. And the day that science can emulate God-like abilities, will probably be the sign of the Antichrist and the end of the world as we probably know it, if that becomes true. So AI, well, I think that is a very interesting concept. The actual framework to make it is still going to be created by a man. So can you really even trust AI if it's created by a man who's already fallible? Okay. Something to think about. Also, I find it odd that unbelieving scientists still mention things about God. I mean, it says if you don't need faith, you don't need prayer, you don't need religion, you don't need God. Who are you trying to convince? Are you trying to convince us, or are you trying to convince yourself? Because as far as I'm concerned, God is real. As far as I'm concerned, scientists are real. Science is real. I hope that's not too shocking to you, but I don't know of a contradiction in the Bible as of right now that would prove what scientists are saying is incorrect. Not yet, anyway. It's not for me lack of looking either, but I haven't really found anything that just contradicts. In fact, I find the exact opposite. And if we don't need faith, why should we believe, trust, or have faith in scientists? A scientific community that will change the definition to prove itself right, which I hope is not true. But I guess we're going to see. If that's what you got to stoop to just to prove yourself right, or to be right, change the laws of the land just to make yourself right or make somebody else wrong, that's just really messed up. But I can see people trying to use that to actually impose their will on others. So another question is, are you jealous of the attention that believers give God? Are you tired of us giving God glory for the victories of science? Let me help you. I'm going to put you at ease with that. We thank God for you and the knowledge He allowed you to have, for not letting you die in college, for not letting you go into another field of expertise. We're thanking for your parents pushing you to complete college and having the funds as well. We also thank God for the long nights of studying you had to endure. Because if God had not kept you, then we may not have been here. You may not have been at a certain location or a doctor or in a situation to save somebody's life. But I'll ask you another question. And I hope you understand my meaning behind it, because I think this is how you treat God. Okay? So, what do you do, or how do you react or talk to somebody when science fails? You ask us to believe in you, but can you take the same criticisms that you give God? When believers and non-believers alike put our faith in you, but you fail, how should we treat you? Should we say to you that you're not a real doctor, like you say to God? Should we say that you're a liar, like you say to God? Should we go to your house and threaten your family, like some people do? Because God's family is the church. Do you even care, like you say to God? I hope none of that stuff is accurate, but I'm curious. If you can say to God all these things and discredit Him, can you take the same criticism? Because you want people to believe in science. You want people to believe in medicine. You want people to believe in you as a person who's dedicated their life to help other people, hopefully. But can you take the criticisms that God takes? Off my little side note, but back onto the course, I looked up the definitions of hypothesis, theory, and law in the Merriam-Webster's dictionary. Hypothesis is an assumption or a concession made for the sake of argument. It's also an interpretation of a practical situation or condition taken as a ground for action, or a tentative assumption made in order to draw out and test a logical or empirical consequence. A theory is a plausible or scientifically acceptable general principle or body of principles offered to explain phenomena. It's also a belief, policy, or procedure proposed or followed as a basis of action. And then lastly, it's an idea or hypothetical set of facts, principles, or circumstances, and it's often used in the phrase "in theory." A law is a statement of an order or relation of phenomena that so far is known as a invariable under the given conditions. It's also a given or general revelation proved or assumed to hold between mathematical or logical expressions. Now, getting back to the subject at hand, the primary subject is a conspiracy theory definition. Conspiracy is an act of conspiring together. Conspiracy is to join in a secret agreement to do an unlawful or wrongful act, or an act which becomes unlawful as a result of a secret agreement. Conspiring also means to act in harmony toward a common end. Theory, like I just previously said, is a plausible or a scientifically acceptable general principle or body of principles offered to explain phenomena. It's a belief, policy, or procedure proposed or followed as a basis of action. It's an ideal or hypothetical set of facts, principles, or circumstances, which I think it's pretty much the defining part of conspiracy theory. It's not that it's proven, but there's facts that kind of can lead toward that as a possibility. So if a scientific theory, if there's a scientific theory and a conspiracy theory, our theories, these are theories that are plausible by definition, but is not necessarily true. Plausible means credible, believable, reasonable, and other things basically are common terms